Hello International Finance students. We're in week 2 now, and we're going to be covering chapters 4 and 5 this week. You also have a continuation on the forum discussion that will be based on a case study at the end of chapter 4. You'll have your week 2 problems. Again, I have the homework template out there, so again, just follow through the template. Again, the answers are in the back of the book, but I more want you to understand how we arrived at that answer. And then again, the PowerPoints to view. This week, I'd say the more technical chapter is chapter 4. Chapter 5 deals with the subprime crisis, and I put some links out there to Inside the Meltdown as a kind of a nice refresher, but it does have impacts to the international community. But I want to spend a little bit more time in the video this week kind of discussing chapter 4, the balance of payments. And the balance of payments is kind of a bit of a misnomer. It's more a statement of cash flows, if you will, kind of our interaction with other countries and kind of the flow of currencies back and forth. And the reason we should be concerned about the balance of payments, it could have potential impacts to multinational enterprises, the MNEs, to fluctuations in foreign exchange, could impact potential cost, and it could open up opportunities for investment or want you to stay away for certain areas of investment. But when breaking down these the generic balance sheet, the balance of payments, they walk through the current account, the capital account, and the financial account. The current account is what you hear about in the news a lot, especially with the trade deficit. We've historically had quite a large trade deficits in the goods department, but surprisingly enough, we actually have surpluses in the services department. In Exhibit 4.2 on page 87, we can see that with the net, in 2009, we imported a lot more goods than we did export, and that's why we have a negative 504 in that good trade balance. But in the services balance, we actually positive. So there might be things that we do, such as banking services, legal services, that we actually see the cash flow come in more than go out for those services. So net of all these things, the bottom of page 87, they tell us that the current account balance was a negative 378 ending 2009. Well, the other side of the equation, kind of a part of the balance of payments, is, things have to net out. Like in a statement of cash flows, if cash comes in, cash flow comes out, or cash flow goes out, cash flow comes in. And a lot of, probably for the United States, a lot of our consumption of these goods and services are financed by other nations. So if there's a shortage in one account, there has to be a positive in the other account. And on Exhibit 4.4 on page 91, they discuss a little bit more about the financial accounts and components. Think about direct investment. That can be actually purchasing a plant. Whether we go overseas and invest in a plant, or Toyota comes here and builds a plant in Kentucky. It can be portfolio investment. That could be stocks, purchases of bonds going in or out. And there could be other investments that they tie to assets and liabilities. It could be trade credit and liabilities. But on page 91, they point out the net financial account balance was a positive 268. Well, to look at this in total, I think they give a good example here on, let's see what page we've got to look back here. Maybe a little bit forward here. They kind of give a nice snapshot of everything. Yeah, it's on page 96. And they show these different groups. They have Group A, the current account, B, the capital account, C, the financial account, D, net errors, and E, reserves-related items. And I just kind of want to point out the bottom of the page. I mentioned this in the written mini lecture. The total groups A through C are at negative 110 in the year 2009, but including the net errors and emissions, we have a total of 52. So what this represents the market forces, kind of the supply and demand. And in this case, since we have a surplus, well, demand for U.S. currency would increase, and that would cause the currency to appreciate unless the markets were to intervene, in the sense of the government intervening in the markets. If it had been a negative number, we would have had a shortage, and you would have expected that currency to fall. And that's what a little bit kind of discusses the rest of the chapter, with kind of this J curve and the idea of kind of eventually things would balance out with trade, but it may take some time. One thing I kind of want to mention about this chapter is a little bit more technical, so do read it slowly, and kind of maybe markings on the side as you read through things, so it helps you understand it. They also kind of wrap up with the discussion of the flow of capital in or out. We've had various crises through the years, like the Asian crisis and what we read about in Chapter 5 about the credit crisis. But, think of money kind of moves like a school fish. If something goes bad, everybody's going to pull that money out of there. Well, the good thing for the United States is in the world size, we're still viewed as a rather safe place. So, capital has stayed here. And I hope that it never does move out. If it does move out, that's when they say we're all going to be in trouble with the national debt and nobody's going to be willing to finance us anymore. Well, do email me if you have any questions, but otherwise, enjoyed the forum discussions, did a good job with those. We just kind of make sure we respect everybody's opinion, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.